Born in Australia, our dad was a concert promoter back there, and on one particular tour that he brought back to Australia, the tour didn't go very well. We ended up losing everything that we had as a family. We lost the house, we lost the car, we lost the life savings, and so Dad was looking for a fresh start for his career and for the family, and he got a job offer in Nashville, Tennessee, and he thought it would be a good idea to move his 6 kids and his wife, who was 6 months pregnant at the time, to Nashville, and that's exactly what we did. But soon after we arrived in Nashville, my dad lost that job. And so we're straight on the other side of the world, no friends, no family. We were sleeping on beds made out of clothes, weren't always quite sure where the next meal was going to come from. Didn't have any way for our little sister to be born in a hospital, didn't have a car, and the list went on and on and on. And we didn't know what else to do other than just gather around in our furnitureless living room and just start praying for these essential things in life. And we got to see God do some amazing things during that time. And I wanted to tell you a couple of those stories. The first story was this: our little sister was born in a hospital. I'm very, very grateful for that. How many folks work in the medical field here tonight? Anybody work in the medical field? Oh, you guys are amazing. Thank you for all that you do. But one of the things as an adult I've realized about hospitals is they're incredibly gifted, talented, I'd venture to say even skilled at sending you large bills. And we got sent a really, really large bill, and we were broke. So my dad called up the hospital, and we got some sort of payment plan figured out. On one particular day, he called up the hospital to make a payment, and the person on the line said, "Mr. Smallwood, your bill has been paid in full." And we still to this day don't know who paid for our little sister to be born in a hospital. Yeah, that's one. And the next was this. When we came to America, I was nearly 5 years old, and we were trying to figure out ways for some additional income for the family, and so we started mowing lawns. And yes, I started mowing lawns at 5 years old. I mean, highly illegal, all right? And we'd have some cops stop by, and they'd be like, "Man, son, you came to mowing the lawn?" And we're like, "Oh, mate, yeah, we're from Australia. No rules, just right in the outback, you know?" And he was like, "I don't understand a word you're saying." And he's like, "Keep your hand away from the blade, son." And so anyway, we would mow lawns, but I'm going to date myself a little bit. The self-propelled push mower had been just kind of invented. All right, and because I was the youngest, the weakest, and the smallest, I was the one who got the self-propelled push mower. And people started looking at us very, very strangely when they saw this 5-year-old kid just mowing up mountains. They just looked at him and they're like, "Is this kid Samson? His hair's too short." It's very strange. But anyway, we started mowing lawns, and one particular guy at that house, we knocked on his door, and we built a friendship with this guy. Well, anyway, this man who we just mowed his lawn ended up being the guy that gave our sister, Rebecca St. James, a record deal 3 years later after we started mowing lawns. And the next story was this: when we came to America, it was just about fall, and Thanksgiving was coming up, and you Americans make a big old deal out of Thanksgiving. And we don't have Thanksgiving in Australia. The British never left Australia. Yeah, they stayed. We never had a revolution. And but anyway, I did some scientific research, and I found out that Canada's got I went to Wikipedia.com, right? And Canada, you guys Canadians? Oh, there's a lot of Canadians. I gotta be careful. I gotta make sure I don't make any jokes. Canadians, let me see. You guys got Thanksgiving? What do you guys call it? Thanksgiving, harvest or something, right? Or is it just Thanksgiving? You got a branding problem. You got too many names. Anyway, they have Thanksgiving. America's got Thanksgiving, and then the rest of the world does not. I mean, the rest of the world is literally that ungrateful, all right? And so anyway, we had a family come over, and they were like, "Well, come over for Thanksgiving, and we'll show you the ropes." And we were like, "What do you do?" And they're like, "Well, you eat turkey." And we were like, "Did you shoot it?" And they're like, "Maybe." And I thought, wow, Americans are just so barbaric, It's very. Anyway, but we went over and had Thanksgiving at this family's house. I had a wonderful, wonderful time. And at the end of the night, the father of the household came to us. He said, "I don't know why, but I just feel compelled to give you the keys to my brand new car. And I just want you guys to have it." Let me tell you something. If you want foreigners to fall in love with Thanksgiving, you just give them a car, folks. And look, I was a young boy when all these things took place, but I'll never forget. We would pray for things, and in the days and the weeks and years later, they would come to fruition. You will never be the same when you see a miracle. You'll never be the same. And what I realized as a young boy was this: the moment that we stop giving to our friends, giving to our neighbors, giving to our families, and the moment that we stop giving to the poor, our souls go dark. And for some of you, you might be thinking, well, what does this have to do with anything? We've been a part of an organization called Compassion International for a number of years. And Compassion International is a child sponsorship program that specializes in reversing the cycle of poverty in third world countries. It believes by pouring into the youth of these countries that they will raise up the next Mother Teresa's, the next Billy Grahams, the next prime ministers, doctors, lawyers, mothers, daughters, and fathers, sons, and they'll transform these countries from the inside out. And I heard a very cool story about a young boy whose name was Richmond, and he was born in Uganda, and he was actually born into a fairly affluent family, but at a very young age, his father was actually murdered. And with that murder went all of the provision for the family, and they were forced to move into the slums. And I don't know if you guys have been on a trip and experienced the slums before, but the slums is just unthinkable difficulty, 24/7, just unthinkable difficulty. And Richmond's mother started asking herself the same question that you and I would ask. How do I get my family out of this situation? How do I give my kids, how do I just give my kids a future? Any future, except for the slums. How do I do that? She ended up hearing about the local Compassion International project, and Richmond ended up graduating with the equivalent of a high school diploma. He was in that program for a number of years. Ended up graduating with the equivalent of a high school diploma. Then got his bachelor's degree in Uganda. Then came to the Moody Bible Institute in Chicago. He got his master's there. I just heard that this boy, who is now a man, just graduated with his doctorate right here in the United States of America. Isn't that cool? And look, I tell you that story, in some cases we've become numb to stories like that, right? Because we've seen so many movies and we've seen so many astounding things, and sometimes we don't realize that these are real people. But the part that gets me the most about Richmond's story, the realness of his story is this. The person who sponsored Richmond was a 14-year-old little girl who said to herself, you know, I can babysit for enough hours every month and I can afford to sponsor a child. And because of that one girl's decision, we are now seeing ripple effects take place all across the world, because Richmond has now gone back to Uganda and is planting churches, is shepherding pastors, and doing absolutely remarkable things. But because of one little girl said, I can do something, I can make a difference. Isn't that cool? So in just a few moments, we're going to have some Compassion International volunteers come throughout this entire arena here with these things called child packs. And I wanted to read to you about this little girl here. This is Samantha, and Samantha lives in Haiti, and she actually has a birthday the day before my birthday. So I like you, Samantha. But Samantha, she lives in Haiti. As I said, if you open up the back of the packet, you can read up a little bit about this story. It says Samantha lives with her mother. Her mother is sometimes employed as a day laborer. Samantha helps her mother by carrying water, caring for younger children, cleaning around the home, and working in the kitchen. And because Haiti is in some cases so close to us here in America, we're pretty well acquainted with their struggles. I mean, it's from what I am being told, is one of the most difficult places to live in the world right now. They have no government, they're controlled by gangs, unbelievable. So when you see that her father isn't in the picture, there's a great chance that he was taken by some of that stuff. There's probably 5 or 6, 7 other kids in this household, and there is a mother who is sometimes employed as a day laborer. I mean, the need is insane. And for some of you here tonight, you might be thinking to yourself, man, look, I love the thought of sponsoring a child. I love the thought of Compassion International, but man, I just can't afford it. And here's what I would say to you. If you were to get together with just 2 friends tonight, yourself and 2 friends, it would be about $13 a month, and you have a child's life, just like Samantha's, changed for forever. Maybe tonight you came with a youth group, small group, or just some sort of group. Man, sponsor a child as a group, and take up a fund once a month. You have a child's life, just like Samantha's, changed for forever. Probably the most powerful way that I've seen child sponsorship take place is actually through families. When I was a young boy, my parents sponsored a child, and they put a picture, just like Samantha's picture, up on the refrigerator. And every time that I go get milk, or I go get orange juice, or I go get food, I was reminded of the fact that there are other kids in this world that just didn't have that ability. But yet that I could go rake leaves, I could go mow lawns, and I could do something for other people. And I think it's very important for us as parents to understand that we live in a very self-seeking, very selfish society. And unless we as parents are doing intentional things to display what it means to be giving, to be selfless, what it means to be generous, man, our kids are just going to go along in society. And I think that sponsoring a child as a family is obviously just one of many ways, but is one of those ways that you can put on that intentional display of generosity in your family. And so what you would do, if you decided that you wanted to sponsor a child tonight, what you would do is you would take this blue tab, you'd fill it out, and you would turn it into one of many locations here tonight. Anybody with a blue apron on tonight, they're Compassion International volunteers, and they have the ability to process the sponsoring of a child right there in your chairs. We also have a couple of stands in the back and up and around in the main concourse. And so one option to sponsor a child is by taking that blue tab, filling it out, turning it into any of the volunteers or any of the stands. The second way to sponsor a child, this is the fastest and quickest way to sponsor a child, is actually by scanning this QR code. Thanks to COVID, we actually know how to use QR codes. Scan that QR code, follow through all the prompts, and you can sponsor a child that way. We also have our text to sponsor system, which is this. If you text the word Unsung to 83393, we will send you a virtual child pack, all right? And once again, if you just follow through all the prompts, you can sponsor a child that way. And we're doing something very special tonight, and that's this. We want to give you guys a few gifts if you sponsor a child. We want to give you this movie, Unsung Hero. I know you guys are all looking at this, and you're like, it's a Blu-ray player. What decade do you live in, Luke? And but it's a Blu-ray, DVD, and regular DVD, and digital version. So that basically means if you have a TV and internet, you can watch this movie for free, all right? And so that's kind of fun. We also have our Unsung Hero inspired by Fakir Country album, which has got Place in This World on it, To Hell with the Devil, You're the Voice, and some of these other songs that are in the movie on this that we wanted to give to you guys. And we also want to give you this bag. Just as a way to say thanks. I mean, this is literally one of the most important things that we talk about from the platform tonight. So we want to make sure we give to you guys as you give to these kids. So take that blue tab, fill it out, turn it into any of the volunteers or any of the stands. The fastest way to sponsor a child is by scanning that QR code, follow through all the prompts. As soon as you get an email in your inbox confirming that you sponsored a child, raise that hand up really, really high, and the volunteers will come and give you that free gift. Same with the text to sponsor, follow through all the prompts. As soon as you get an email in your inbox confirming that you sponsored a child, raise that hand up and they will come and give you that free gift. Oftentimes people wonder, you know, Luke, why do you take time out of your concert to talk about Compassion International? Why don't you just play more songs? And here's the truth, under very, very different circumstances, I was much like one of these kids. And if it wasn't for people like yourselves who gave to me and my family, if it wasn't for people like yourselves who actually gave my parents a future, which in turn gave me a future, I wouldn't be sitting up here on this stage. And second of all, I say this, I will never grow tired of advocating for children who are in desperate need of food, clothing, and education, and most of all, who are in desperate need of Jesus Christ in their life, yeah?
Amen.
So right now, all across this arena, if you're interested in sponsoring a child, you're obviously not committing to anything, but if you're interested in sponsoring a child, wanted to read up about one of these kids, just raise your hand up really, really high. Maybe tonight you said you want to sponsor a child as a family, father, son, mother, daughter. Maybe tonight you want to sponsor a child as a get-together with some friends. Maybe tonight you want to sponsor a child with a group, a youth group, small group, whatever it might be. But just raise those hands up really, really high so the volunteers can see you, and they would love to give you one of these packets. And I'll keep chatting here for just a few more minutes while they get these packets in your hand. As I said, take that blue tab, fill it out, turn it into any of the volunteers or the tables back there. We also have the QR code, which is the fastest way to sponsor a child. The text to sponsor, text the word Unsung to 83393. They will send you a virtual child pack. But just keep those hands up really, really high so they can see it. One of the coolest things about this ministry is you actually get to write letters back and forth to these kids. So my wife Courtney and I, we sponsor a child, and he lives in El Salvador. And got to go visit him not too long ago, and went and played soccer, went to a water park, did all sorts of, went to his house for lunch, and when it came time for us to say goodbye, I told him that I loved him, and that I was proud of him,